I wanted to first answer the question that you asked earlier, like in terms of him 5 years ago saying that he doesn't want to be associated with anything that's vice or anything like that, alcohol or
Oh,
drugs.
this was in 2009, so over like 30.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Then 5 years later on
Yeah.
the To Pimp A Butterfly, he is admitting of being he's dealing with alcohol issue essentially, and you kind of wanted to find out how did that happen. I think you touched on that point, the fact that on top of the pressure that it comes from being highly visible, just the sheer survivor's guilt, as you mentioned, but also being reminded by life that you are only human. And I think two experiences on this album drive that home for him. The fact that he was on tour and a few of his homies were killed and he couldn't even attend the funeral. No, he couldn't be there for them. He had to just leave tour and then attend the funeral. And if he wasn't Kendrick Lamar, he probably would have participated in the retaliation that is custom of his neighborhood, or he could have done something else for that. Being limited by that because of his newfound status was something that he probably did not anticipate, and he had to reckon with that, and he had to face that. Secondly, his younger sister, 13-year-old, falling pregnant, while he is this highly revered figure, was also something that he probably wasn't able to deal with properly.
So he's become a prisoner of his own success.
Yeah, definitely that sense of understanding that life is now different. Life is not how you usually plan it. And on that topic of him being heralded as a savior of the black community, I very much remember Kendrick wanting to position himself into that lane, that sense, that sort of intersection of where he is seen as someone who's going to bring hip hop back, or he's going to be the one that does not fall victim to the trap of society. And he wanted to position himself into on a higher strata than the average rapper. So he did seek a bit of that ability to be a thought leader or some sort of community leader. However, I don't think he understood what that meant, or
what it came with,
essentially. And I don't think we as a black community understood what that does to the leaders that we place in this position, which is why he made the song Motorman, because it's one thing to build me up to be this figure, but how do you react when I am only human at the end of the day?
And I make mistakes.
Yeah, do you slay me and throw me to the side? Do you believe in anything that comes my way? And then his thoughts on how sometimes our leaders can be engineered as well by the wider society. Like him talking about Lucy and the fact that, yes, these rappers will come out, they're very hungry, they're very easily impressionable, they can be easily manipulated. You tie them into some deals, you give them the high visibility that comes with it, and then you just cut them down when you're done using them. So, as you mentioned, the sense of the butterfly being easily pimped, him making a commentary about that was also something that I feel like we need to be mindful of, because he's able to articulate so many things that we've seen happen before in the black community. That sense of someone is starting good, and then somewhere along the way something goes on, and they're no longer sticking to the ideal that they started off with. Something usually happens when somebody is propelled into high visibility. He was able to articulate that well. Survivor's guilt is one of them. High visibility and the pressure of the public is another one. But also the challenges of now being in a new environment and not really knowing how to navigate that environment. There's so many traps, and I definitely feel like so many of these things contributed to him changing his lifestyle, changing his mindset, changing his perspective, which is why we get an album like Mr. Morale, where he's almost rebelling against that sense of being a savior, because he understands that in that position he can be easily used to deviate people from the sense of justice or morality.